Good evening. Welcome to South Asia Newsline. I'm Limpim Vishum. Here are the top stories we are tracking for you on Monday, the 22nd of June. Taliban attacks Afghan parliament hours after taking control of 2 northern districts. Power outages continue in Pakistan as heat wave claims 140 lives. And jailed former Maldivian President Nasheed placed under house arrest. And now for all the details. Afghanistan was rocked by a brazen Taliban attack on its parliament building on Monday. While all 7 militants were killed, the assault also injured over a dozen civilians.
Chaos was triggered inside the parliament on Monday after smoke filled the building following a huge explosion in the country's center of power. A suicide bomber blew himself up outside the premises, while a group of Taliban fighters stormed the lower house of the parliament, shattering windows and forcing lawmakers to flee. The incident occurred when the Afghan president's nominee for the post of defense minister was being introduced in the parliament. Security forces repelled the strike as the lawmakers and staff members were evacuated from the complex. The gun battle, which lasted for 2 hours, ended with the killing of all the attackers. The assault on the high-profile target in downtown Kabul has raised fresh questions about security in Afghanistan.
سر کار بودم که اینجا یک دفعه یک آتش صرف بالا شد بسیار صدایش بالا بود ما دیگه نفهمیدیم بسیار
Violence has spiraled in Afghanistan ever since NATO forces began departing in December last year, raising questions about Afghan security forces' ability to fight the Taliban, which continues to launch major attacks in important Afghan provinces. The war-torn nation was ruled by hardline Taliban regime until it was ousted from power by the NATO in 2001. The militia, which had vowed to gain back its lost territories, had last week rebuffed requests from senior Afghan clerics to halt attacks during the fasting month of Ramzan.
The attack on Afghan parliament came hours after the 2nd district in the northern Kunduz province fell under control of the Taliban on Monday. The mounting tensions come despite continued efforts by the Afghan forces to tackle the Taliban menace in the country.
The militants on Monday captured Dasht-i-Arche district in Kunduz province, officials confirmed. This comes after Chardara district also fell into the hands of the Taliban on Sunday, following days of intensive infightings between the insurgents and Afghan security forces. Around 12 soldiers were killed and 17 others wounded in the counter-offensive in the Chardara district. According to sources, Islamic State militants are fighting alongside the Taliban to gain grounds in the northern province. Tens of thousands of people have apparently been displaced after Taliban began to move into the area. Violence in Afghanistan escalated ever since the militia announced its warm weather offensive in April. The Taliban has also made advances in capturing southern Helmand province, its traditional stronghold. The violence comes despite the terror outfit and Afghan government reportedly working towards resuming peace talks, which have been stalled for over 2 years.
There is an increasing interest towards yoga in the US, like most parts of the world, Indian Foreign Minister Sushma Swaraj has said. Swaraj was in the US to mark the first International Yoga Day on Sunday.
As the world marked its first International Yoga Day, thousands of yoga practitioners assembled at the Times Square for the summer solstice yoga on Sunday. At the United Nations headquarters, UN General Secretary Ban Ki-moon himself led the program after the world body recognized June 21st as the International Yoga Day.
It's good for your health. It's good for the spirit. And yoga does not discriminate. To varying degrees, all people can practice regardless of their strength, age, or ability.
Indian Foreign Minister Sushma Swaraj, who was in the US to mark the big day, said the ancient Indian practice has found a lot of followers world over too.
No one can deny the impact of yoga across the globe today. In the United States alone, more than 24 million people practice yoga on a regular basis.
In India, the day was nothing less than a celebration as millions came out on the streets to mark the occasion. The main event was led by Prime Minister Narendra Modi at capital New Delhi's Rajpath. Nearly 36,000 people assembled in the ceremonial boulevard on Sunday, which also set a new world record for the largest yoga session. Over 100 million people also performed yoga almost in unison in more than 100,000 camps set up all over India. Yoga, the age-old Indian exercise and meditational practice, involves various physical postures known as asana and is believed to have medicinal powers to cure a varied range of illnesses.
Pakistan's opposition parties have lashed out at the government for increased power outages and threatened to stage protests if the matter was not resolved. This comes as Pakistan continues to be in the grip of a massive heat wave which claimed at least 140 lives over the weekend in Sindh alone. A report.
Opposition leader Syed Khurshid Shah on Monday slammed Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif for the grave problem and stated that the incumbent government would be unable to fulfill its claim of ending the electricity crisis by 2018. Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf or PTI also announced to demonstrate against unscheduled power outages in the Punjab province, calling on other parties to join in too. The country is reeling under acute electricity cuts lasting up to 18 hours. People across the country have also been protesting against government's inability towards tackling the problem. A day before the beginning of Ramzan, Prime Minister Sharif had directed the authorities to ensure uninterrupted power supply during Sehri and Iftar timings. The nation, which began fasting on Friday, however, plunged into darkness during its very first dawn of the holy month. Distressed by the power outages, furious residents took to streets against the government across all provinces. People in Karachi said it was getting difficult to cope by the day.
हाल बहुत ख़राब है हम लोगों की एक तो रोज़े रमज़ान फिर इस पे आप देखें हर साल इतनी गर्मी नहीं होती रिकॉर्ड तोड़ गर्मी है
इफ्तार का टाइम हो गया है इसलिए अफ्तारी भी बनानी है तो क्या करें अब गर्मी तो है और ऊपर से लाइट भी नहीं है लोड शेडिंग रोजाना चल रही है
The Karachi University also announced the postponement of the exams which were to begin on Monday due to power outages and heat wave. Pakistan, which is experiencing surging mercury recorded temperatures as high as 48 degrees in its Sindh province.
अभी भी चूँकि एक मानसून का सिलसिला पाकिस्तान के नज़दीक पहुंच चुका है और अगले 24 घंटों में हवा में नमी का तनासब पंजाब और सिंध में काफ़ी हद तक बढ़ जाएगा, जिसके वजह से अगर 24 घंटों के बाद एक बारिश का सिलसिला होने का इम्कान है और उसमें जैसे ही ये वेदर होगा, रेन होगी, तो लाजमी बात है टेम्परेचर नीचे आएंगे। तो जब ये वेदर निकल जाएगा, ये इसके जुम्मा हफ्ता तक कंप्लीट पाकिस्तान के इलाकों से चला जाएगा, उसके बाद फिर टेम्परेचर में इजाफा मुतवक्के है।
Around 130 people died in Karachi alone due to a sudden heat wave over the weekend.
Ex-military dictator Pervez Musharraf was responsible for the assassination of former Pakistan Prime Minister Benazir Bhutto, her husband, and former President Asif Ali Zardari has claimed. He also refused to withdraw the FIR against Musharraf in the case.
Pakistan People's Party co-chairperson Asif Ali Zardari has said everyone except one person accused in the murder of Benazir Bhutto has been killed. Addressing PPP supporters in southern Sindh on Sunday to mark the 62nd birth anniversary of Bhutto, Zardari said she herself had claimed that Musharraf would be responsible if she was killed.
तकरीबन वो खत्म हो गए। अब सिर्फ एक जनरल के ऊपर FIR है और उनके साथ को एक्यूज्ड है जिन पे केस चल रहा है और हम वो FIR भी उसने अपनी कब्र से खुद लिखा के गई है। वो FIR ना आपने लिखाई है ना मैंने लिखाई है। वो शहीद मोहतरमा बेनजीर भुट्टो खुद लिखा के गई है। उसने अपनी शहादत से पहले ही FIR लिखा दी थी कि अगर मुझे कुछ हुआ
Zardari also said the FIR against Musharraf will not be withdrawn under any pressure. Bhutto was killed in a suicide blast in December 2007 while she was returning from an election campaigning. Musharraf, who was the then president of Pakistan, was accused of not providing adequate security to her despite threats to her life. The former military strongman was indicted in August 2013 for the assassination of Bhutto.
Former Maldives President Mohammed Nasheed, who is serving a jail term on terror charges, has been transferred to house arrest for 3 days. President Abdullah Yameen on Sunday authorized Nasheed's transfer on medical grounds following doctors' advice. The development also came a day after Yameen rejected Nasheed's clemency request and asked him to first exhaust all appeal processes in his terrorism conviction. However, Nasheed's Maldivian Democratic Party has raised eyebrows and claimed that there were threats to his life. Nasheed was sentenced to 13-year jail term in March this year after he was found guilty of terrorism over military's detention of a judge during his tenure. The international community has been calling for Nasheed's release after world bodies including the UN and Amnesty International claimed that he was denied a fair trial. Despite assuring to crack down on religious seminaries linked to militant groups in Pakistan, the government has initiated no action against them so far, reports have claimed. These religious schools, which receive huge amounts of foreign funds, are believed to be indoctrinating extremist ideology.
Southern Pakistan's Sindh province had identified some 46 seminaries reported to have leanings towards terrorism. The government, under the National Action Plan, had last month formed a high-power committee comprising of police, paramilitary, security and intelligence agencies to crack down on their activities. However, no action has been taken so far, and these seminaries continue to operate freely. According to sources, this is largely due to the stiff resistance by the clergy and orthodox groups who oppose any such move, calling it anti-Islamic. Pakistan has an estimated 40,000 religious seminaries, of which many are unregistered. Most of them receive heavy donations from abroad. According to reports, some $700,000 were illegally transferred from the Gulf countries in the past 2 months to some of these centers. Students, mostly from poor families who cannot afford to attend public schools, are lured with the promise of free education, food and housing. A number of these centers are, however, believed to be involved in radicalizing its students and later sending off these recruits for terrorist activities across the country.
Indians love to beautify their places of worship. Take a look at how this temple in southern Kerala is boasting of the best sculptures and carvings.
This house of mystic in Kochi is set to get some more sheen. The Jain temple in the port city is going for a facelift by a team of artisans who are working towards enhancing the beauty of the place. The temple, entirely made of white marble, is devoted to the 12th Tirthankar Vasupujya Swami. The complex, which took 4 years for construction, was opened for general public in 2011. Temple Trust members hope the renovation would attract more tourists to the shrine, which was one of its kind in southern India.
मतलब साउथ के अंदर ऐसा मंदिर नहीं है. साउथ के अंदर ऐसा जो कारीगरी किया हुआ है ऐसा मंदिर कोई मतलब साउथ में नहीं है. मट्टनचेरी में भी नहीं है, कालीगढ़ में भी नहीं है, कन्याकुमारी में भी नहीं है, कहीं भी नहीं है. ऐसा साउथ में फर्स्ट मंदिर है, पूरा मार्बल का कंप्लीट है.
The temple calls attention for its ornamental detailing and minutely carved ceilings, doorways and pillars. No rust-prone metal, soil or cement has been used to construct the 2,000 square feet temple with 560 tons of marble brought from Rajasthan. Silver and gold has also been used in its construction. The renovation is expected to be completed in another 2 years.
Well, that's the way it was in South Asia this evening. Before we conclude the top stories once again. Taliban attacks Afghan parliament hours after taking control of 2 northern districts. Power outages continue in Pakistan as heatwave claims 140 lives. And jailed former Maldivian President Nasheed placed under house arrest. Now our viewers can watch the show on SouthAsiaNewsline.com. You can also visit us on Facebook.com/SAsiaNewsline and follow us on Twitter @SAsiaNewsline. That's all in tonight's edition. We will see you same time tomorrow. Good night.